Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you guys are interested in AI engineering, you are in the right place. Today we're going to be focusing in on how to solve business problems with AI engineering. One example of that today, in this case, this is a script that I made on an open source contribution to a nonprofit called Vets Who Code. They're an awesome organization that helps military veterans transition into software engineering. They've been around for years and they know what they're doing. They mentor, they instruct, they provide everything. And I got a chance to give back and do an open source contribution, automating images for their blog posts and social media content. So let's check it out. When you think about engineering kind of like starts with the system outlook on how we're going to actually attack a problem, right? If we look here, if you go to blog, they have a certain branding, right, that they use for not only their blogs, but for content and social media and all that kind of stuff. Instead of manually going in, creating these designs, attaching them to the blogs, reading the blog post, we can use AI and we can use software to pretty much solve that problem, automate it so that we can just generate a script or use a script to generate that image, test it to make sure it's evaluating and testing good so that it makes it so that we're making sure that it's appropriate for that blog. And that's a big part of this. So we're just gonna look at the high level, like what this is, what I did and how I approached this today. But let's actually run this real quick and just see what this does. And then I think it'll make more sense when we're actually going through this. Now we're not gonna run this manually because we have this wired up that when we upload a new Markdown file, it's gonna automatically run the script. But for now, just for show and tell pretty much for this, I'm gonna run this manually just so we can see what's going on. So if we go ahead and do npm run generate blog image, and if we plug in that URL, so the URL slug, how traditional onboarding excludes. Again, this is the URL slug that we have over here for the blog and also the file name. So that's how it's going to find the actual file using that file system. So we go ahead and run that. I got some console.log just so we know what's going on timing wise. So at first this is going to go ahead. It's going to analyze the blog content with Gemini. So it's scraping that and taking that summary of the blog post, put it into Gemini. It's going to return a JSON formatted structure and then upload that in ImageGen 4. So we have a nice prompt with a theme inside it. And it's going to use that theme, inject it into the prompt that we have, and it's going to generate a image automatically and then upload it right into Cloudinary. So go ahead and look at that real quick. We can go ahead and see it's got our branding. All right, so pretty much this is the flow of our script. This is our main function. So if we kind of look through this and we'll dissect all the functions and kind of try to make this make sense. But we are pretty much step one, we're wiring up our API keys and all that kind of stuff. Step two, we are going to gather the title and content from the blog post using the file system. So we're doing read blog post. We're going to gather that. We're going to take that. We're going to run it through a function that's going to take that title and content from the blog post, send it to Gemini, and tell Gemini in a very concise way, like, here's a title, here's the content of blog post. Return this in a JSON format, in a structured format, so we can use this to create an image. We're going to inject that theme into this function, which is now creating the image. So we're going to take that JSON data, inject it into a prompt that we made, send it into ImageGen 4 and say, hey, take this with this dynamic theme and generate an image and send it back to us. If we test this image and it has no text on it, we're going to go ahead then and upload it to Cloudinary where we store our images. This is actually our for loop, right, where we're actually going to iterate through these functions up to 3 times. So if we run through it once and it detects text on the image, we're going to say, hey, go ahead and do this again with a second variant of our prompt. If it comes back again and there's text on it again, we're going to say, hey, take the third variant of our similar prompt and use it again. And at that point, if it returns it with text again, which is like very, very small percentage, we'll do that, maybe like less than 3%. We'll still store it to have human validation, but even if that text exists, it's probably correlated to the theme and it probably makes sense anyway. So it's probably okay even at that point. If we look at what LLMs do, like we're using Gemini LLM in this case to pretty much summarize a blog post and return some structured data that we can then take that information and run it through Image Gen 4 to create an image. This is non-deterministic, right? Like it's not easy to guarantee up to 100% that there's not going to be any text on images, because every time you can give the same prompt to the same LLM multiple times, you get different results, right? Here, even though this is pretty small kind of script and it's doing a small task, we pretty much build a pipeline, right? We're not just using an LLM to generate an image. We thought through a process. We thought through what models make the most sense. So at the end of the day, this is a good solution for taking a small human-driven task that we were doing weekly or multiple times weekly, automating that, testing that so that the validation is good and it correlates well with our branding strategy. All right, thanks for checking this out with me. It was fun to work on, and let me know if you guys have any other questions or comments with generating images and having that automatic process with your content strategies for your branding. Thanks.